Melanie's a mind of fanatic. Melanie's mind so great you can have it. Melanie's mind, the mind of fanatic. Melanie's mind's the great you can have it.
Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm recording on my very brand new camera. It's a Canon G7X, and I would not be able to get this or even have the motivation to want to get a camera if it wasn't for you guys. So I just want to thank you guys so much again for over 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate all of you guys, and I hope all of you are doing well during this quarantine and lockdown. I don't know where some of you guys live, but here in Colorado we have a lockdown until April 30th, and it might extend longer. So I've just been at home, and I hope that all of you guys have been staying safe. But one of the things that I've really been enjoying during this quarantine is watching movies and watching documentaries that I wouldn't tend to click on, but since I'm kind of bored and I have a lot of time during this quarantine, I've just been checking out documentaries that I wouldn't usually check out, and one of these is this documentary called Tread, and it's on Amazon Prime. So if you guys don't have Amazon Prime, I wanted to make a video pretty much talking about what this documentary is about and the event that happened. So I've lived in Colorado my whole life. I, one, never heard of Granby, Colorado, and two, have never heard of this incident involving Marvin Heemeyer and his Killdozer. It happened in 2004, which is not even that long ago, and I had never heard of it. And when you see the footage of the Killdozer, it baffled me that we don't talk about this more, or we don't hear about this more often. So to start this video off, I'm gonna paint the scene for you. We're in Granby, Colorado, which is this very, very small town, and it has a very small population. Everyone knows everyone's business. It's a stereotypical small town. Marvin Heemeyer was born October 28th, 1951 in South Dakota. I don't know much about his childhood, but when he moved to Granby, Colorado, he was known as an incredible welder. He owned a muffler shop, and his reputation followed him. He was known to be an incredible worker. Everyone knew that if you went to go take something for him to fix, it would be fixed for years because he was such a great welder. He was also an outdoorsman, and he loved to snowmobile. And the crazy thing is, throughout this whole documentary, people from the town specify that they can't recall anyone disliking him. He was a very well-known person, and everyone liked him. He went on snowmobile rides with a bunch of people, kids and teenagers and other males, adult men, and they would go snowmobiling for hours on trails, and he was like a mentor to these kids, and a lot of these kids actually looked up to him. So there were a lot of people that were torn by this incident, and I keep mentioning this incident, and I've kind of talked about it, but Marvin Heemeyer is responsible for building the Killdozer, and what he did is that he destroyed a couple small businesses and like the town hall. He pretty much destroyed the small town of Granby, Colorado, or at least he really, really tried to. And that's why I'm telling you that a lot of people in this town were completely shocked by Marvin, better known as Marv, destroying the town. And the even crazier thing is the people that admired him, or like the people who really knew him, some of them even understand why he did this, and they kind of feel bad for him. They empathize with him and they pity him. And this will make more sense as I continue. I'm so sorry if this is jumping all over the place. This is just the most bizarre and interesting thing I have stumbled upon in a very long time, and bear with me. So like I said, Granby, Colorado was a really, really small town, and a lot of people even said that it felt like the Wild West. So Marv moved to Granby to start a small business, which was his muffler shop. So he went and he actually bought his property off of an auction and created it into a muffler shop. and this was pretty much his pride and joy. So he had been living in Granby 10 years before the incident happened. So for 10 years, he had his muffler business, and he had a very successful one. Like I said, everyone knew he was an outstanding welder, and everyone could trust him with any problem fixing anything. So this is where I'm going to talk about what sparked this whole chain of events, this whole grand freaking ginormous incident that happened in 2004. And for you guys to understand what sparked this, I have to tell you about the politics of this town, and I have to explain to you the dirty laundry and everything about this town pretty much, and I have to go through some important characters. So the first character that we're going to talk about is Ron Thompson, and he's the vice president of the city council. And so Marv already felt like the city council was run like a boys club, and he was not a fan of it. He didn't belong with these people, and he felt like they were kind of bullies, honestly. And so to start off this argument, there was a city council meeting, and Marv was getting fined because he didn't attach his sewer line from his property to the sewer line of the city. And so to fix this problem, or to do what the council wanted him to do, it would cost a lot of money that he did not have. So this really upset Marv, and clearly he did not like them. And so the Thompson family owned a lot of land in Granby, Colorado, because they had lived there forever. They were kind of the original people, original settlers of Granby, Colorado. So they were filthy rich also. It was to the point that there were streets named Thompson, and they were just known around the whole town. People recall Marv saying that he felt like the city council was a hierarchy, and like the Thompsons were a hierarchy, and he felt like they had a certain attitude about them, like they were arrogant, and like I said, just bullies. So the bigger problem in this whole thing is that there was a building right next to the property where it was in the same lot, kind of, where Marv's muffler shop was, and they were trying to rent it out, and Marv was asking for a lot of money for it, and the city council was just like, no, and gave it to this guy and made it into they made this building into a batch plant. And this made Marv so mad. This is the thing that set him off, because he felt with this plant, this factory next to him, that there would be a lot less people coming in, so it would hurt his business, and he complained that it smelled and it was messy, and it just made his property and his business look bad. But the city council did not care and did little to nothing to please or to even come to an agreement with Marv. So as you can see, this started a turmoil. These people clearly did not think that they would have such a huge effect on Marv in this way, to the degree of him creating this massive attack on this town. But all these little things were boiling up inside of Marv, and it pretty much ended in him exploding. So I'm gonna introduce the second character, which is also one of the most important characters in this whole ordeal, and his name is Cody Doshiff. Cody Doshiff. And Cody Doshiff, who I'm just gonna call Cody because I'm not gonna keep saying his last name wrong, was the person who owned the batch plant right next to Marv's property. And so he got this plant, he bought it, attained it in '99, and after Cody got this factory, this batch plant, Marv swore that he would keep fighting no matter what, and he would protect his property at all costs. And just to make Marv more angry, the city council told him that he was not allowed to run his business until he fixed the problem with the sewer line. And like I said, he couldn't afford it, so Marv was really unhappy about that. He was angry because the city council also fined him $100 a day until he fixed the sewer line. So they were pretty much just jabbing at him every chance they could, and I'm not sure if they were doing this on purpose, because if Marv hated them, maybe they also resented him in some way. I'm not sure. But because of this, it caused Marv to file a lawsuit and to get an attorney, and he was mad at the whole town pretty much. Marv felt like he wasted 10 years of his life running this business, running this muffler shop for this one person to just come in and ruin everything for him. After Marv filed the lawsuit, the judge dismissed his lawsuit, and Marv felt completely alone. Every time he saw someone from the city council, he felt like they would snicker at him, and he also just felt like they were trying to run him out of town. It was like some high school drama pettiness, honestly. He felt attacked, and because of this, he said, I'm gonna find a way to make them deal with this. Like, there was some point where Marv could only think about revenge, and he was no longer worried about making his business better because he felt as if his business was already done and he had already wasted 10 years. So now he was thinking of how he could make the other people who had made his life miserable too. So Marv had a wife, and Marv's wife actually recalled talking to him about it, and they would talk about the problem and talk about how he was feeling, but she never realized that it was to the extent that it was. She didn't realize how badly it was boiling inside of him and how angry he actually was. Because the truth was that Marv felt defeated and he felt completely humiliated, and it happened in front of the whole town. Everyone knew everything. So everyone knew what happened at the city council. Everyone knew about Cody getting the factory. Everyone knew about the drama with the city council. And so one day, and this day is a very, very crucial, important day for this whole story, because this is where Marv decided what he was gonna do, and he set up a plan for what he was gonna do. As he was sitting in his hot tub, he was crying and he was feeling sorry for himself, and then a peace came over him. This is how he described it in his audio recordings, because the thing was also at the end of this, he left audio recordings of this whole process that I'm gonna explain. So the peace that came over him was him realizing or feeling as if God had told him or given him a vision of what to do and how to make the situation better. And it wasn't in a nice way, it wasn't in a positive way, it was in a vengeful and a very cynical way. He said that this had to be done and that the world would write stories about this event and write stories about him, and how they would write stories on how they picked with the wrong guy. So this whole thing for him was about revenge. After this day, this whole thing was about getting them back and making sure that they felt how he felt on the inside. But let me go back and tell you guys more about the Thompson family, and most importantly about the Thompson brothers. So the Thompson brothers were known in Granby as the two most hardworking millionaires. Let me say that again. Millionaires. And when I tell you, when I saw them, they do not look like millionaires. They live on a farm, they dress up in plaid shirts, they look like farmers, they dress up in work clothes every day. So in spring of 2003, my notes are very confusing at this part, but from what I understand, from what I wrote, is that in spring of 2003, Marv had a huge drama and a huge beef with the Thompson brothers because Marv wanted to borrow $300,000 from the Thompson brothers' dad, and he told the dad, I promise I'll get it back to you, but the dad told Marv to go suck his, I don't know if I could say that. He went to go tell Marv to go suck his, this isn't funny. So in his mind, this solidified that whatever he wanted to do, whatever his revenge plan was, that the brothers were in on it and they knew he was gonna do it, and he felt that this made it okay. In his brain, he thought that they knew, so this made it okay. It's very confusing. He was clearly not mentally stable at this point. He was letting his anger and hatred consume him in a very unhealthy way. So another important character is Patrick Brower, and he was a journalist at this time in Granby, Colorado, and he wanted to do an article on small businesses, so he wanted to interview Marv. But every time he went over to Marv's house, Marv was never there. And Marv wanted this interview because obviously he wanted more business to come in, but he thought that this journalist was just blowing him off, so he was pissed at this journalist, even though that wasn't the case. But obviously this journalist couldn't let Marv know that because every time he went over to Marv's business, he wasn't there. I'm naming these characters so that it sets it in your brain that in Marv's head, these people had done him wrong in some way. And these people are eventually who he is going to want to get revenge on. He couldn't understand that building the badge factory was opening up more opportunities in the community for more jobs, but Marv was still really unhappy that it was next to him. He just did not want it next to him at all. And so I'm going to talk about Cody Doshif again. And so everyone in the town said Cody was a really good man, that he grew up with nothing, but he made a good living for himself. And so like, while this was all happening and knowing that Marv was struggling with his business and Marv still hadn't connected the sewer line, Cody offered to buy Marv out. So Marv said that he would sell it to Cody for $250,000, and Cody took it. He said, deal, that sounded good. But then Marv kept pulling out and kept changing his mind last minute. And so at the end of all this exchange, Marv decided to not sell to Cody, and he pretty much did it just to be petty because he really needed the money and his business wasn't going anywhere, and he just could not fathom the idea of selling his property to Cody. So the summer of 2002 is where the bulldozer comes in, because that is when Marv purchased the bulldozer at an auction. And that bulldozer just sat there from 2002 to 2003. Everyone in the town thought that Marv bought it for intimidation. That's the only reason why people thought he bought it, because he didn't drive it, he didn't do anything with it, it just sat there. And so like I said, Marv was really struggling with his business, and he ended up putting his property up for auction, and the only thing that he didn't sell from his property was the bulldozer. And not because he didn't try to sell it, he tried to sell everything, but the only thing that wouldn't sell was the bulldozer. So once again, that solidified to him that that was a sign from God that his plan had to continue, and that he had to do something with this bulldozer, that he had to get revenge on these people, that he had to make them pay. And at the same time that he lost his muffler shop, or he put it up for auction, his wife started to smoke and they stopped seeing each other because he hated that. So his life was really going downhill. He felt like he had lost everything, and he was blaming everyone else around him. Even though Marv sold off his property, the people that he sold his property to let him keep the bulldozer there inside of a garage. And so in the fall of 2003, he started to build the bulldozer. And the people that now owned his property asked him what he was doing with the bulldozer or why he wanted it in the garage. But the reason he wanted it in there is so that he could work on it and no one would ask questions, and so that he could do it in privacy, because he knew that if he built it out where anyone could see, they'd be asking a lot more questions and it would be raising a lot of eyebrows. Because of all these things happening, like the bulldozer not selling, him being allowed to keep the bulldozer on the property, and he felt like this is what was meant to happen. He felt that, how am I not supposed to do this if everything is falling into place? And the thing was, it kind of did look like everything was falling into place for him to build this. So he sold the property for $400,000, and he used all that money towards the Killdozer, which he built in secret. And it got to the point where he set up camp inside of this garage. He had a little makeshift bed, and he would sleep there for 4 days at a time just to work on it. He became obsessed with building this, and it did take him quite a long time to build it. And he was well prepared because he had the torches, he had all the equipment he needed, because he was already a very good welder and he knew what he was doing. The first thing he did to the dozer was fortify it. He covered it in steel all over and made it impenetrable. To make sure that he was not caught in the act, he put cameras all around the garage where he was working, and it would alarm him if there was someone coming near. And he actually almost got caught because the trash company, the new people that owned his property, needed to go through the building just to inspect it to make sure everything was up to date. And he somehow managed to hide the bulldozer and not raise any questions. And this whole time, Marv kept asking himself, how have I not been caught? How has no one caught me yet. And in his head, he kept telling himself, it's because God wants me to do this. God really wants this plan to go through. And he just kept making himself the victim of everything because he truly felt like he was getting picked on and bullied. And so he felt like it was God's will for him to get revenge on these people. And he said that he got the peace that he needed to do it in that hot tub so many years ago. The thing that is baffling to me is that Marv loved snowmobiling. He bought his property for $42,000 and he sold it for $400,000. He could have lived very comfortably and he could have just spent the rest of his days snowmobiling, but he just had to get revenge on these people. He just had to continue building the Killdozer and spending all of his time and resources on this one project. So in March 2004, Marv's dad passed away. And Marv was very upset about this. This destroyed him, actually. And he gave all of his money to his dad because he said money meant nothing to him anymore. And he also gave his snowmobile away at this point and gave all of his other possessions away. And the reason why he did this is so that it would be nearly impossible to pay any of the victims once he was done with what he was about to do. Once he was done with the damage, he didn't want them to have any of his possessions so that they could get money from it. And like I said before, he taped himself talking about why he was doing this, talking about how he felt this whole process, because he wanted everyone to know why he did it. And it was pretty much kind of his version of the 13 tapes that freaking, you know what I'm talking about. But it was his way of being like, this is why I did it, and it's your fault, and it's your fault that this happened, and all this damage is because of you, not because of me, but because of what you did. So he was just pretty much not taking responsibility for any of his actions. When I tell you that no one saw what was gonna happen coming, I mean no one saw it coming. This took the whole town by complete shock, by complete surprise. The Granby police did not know what to do. It was a shit show for this town. So on June 4th, 2004, the day that all of this happens, 911 calls start coming in, and it's people talking about a bulldozer that's taking out buildings. And the 911 operator was extremely confused, like, bulldozer, are you sure? The 911 operators could not believe what they were hearing, and the people calling didn't even really know how to explain it. They described it as a bulldozer, but it did not look like a bulldozer. And so after he broke through this garage, he went straight for Cody's batch plant. So right away he started destroying the walls of the batch plant, and Cody was there, and a bunch of the other people that worked there were there. And the only thing Cody could think to do was to grab his handgun, and he started shooting at the Killdozer, which did nothing because the steel pretty much bounced the bullets off. And they tried to break the tracks, but they couldn't break them because he also fortified them. And so the next thing that Cody tried to do is grab his bulldozer or his tractor and ram it into the Killdozer. And when he did this, Marv decided to start shooting the rifles that he had attached to the Killdozer. And Marv started shooting at the people that were working there. He didn't kill anyone, but it was enough to get the people that were there to stop messing with it and to back away from it. Because they knew that Marv was in there. There was no doubt in their mind who the person in the Killdozer was. And they were trying to stop before he did any more damage, but they literally could not stop it. And the police came, they could not stop it. They couldn't do anything. This machine was indestructible, and it just kept going. It kept moving on no matter what they did to try to stop it. So once the cops come to Cody's batch plant, they pull their automatic rifles out and they start trying to shoot at it, and Marv starts shooting at them. And then that's when Marv decides to start going somewhere else, and he drives the Killdozer to Mountain Parks Electric, and he starts taking out the walls of that building. And his next target was Town Hall, where the city council meetings are held, and he destroyed that. And after he destroyed the town hall, he was just driving down Main Street and went on the highway, and that's when a bunch of more cops started to come, but there wasn't really much that they could do. He then goes and tries to destroy the building where Patrick Bowe is, and the entire building collapsed, and they still couldn't find a way to stop him, and all he was doing was creating more damage and ruining this small town. So everyone and the cops knew that the Thompsons were definitely on his list, and that was where he was definitely headed next. So all the cops started rushing over to the Thompsons' property. It had been less than an hour now, and the whole town knew what was going on. And they warned Thompson's mother, because the Thompsons' mom had a small house in the town, and it's a really good thing that they told her to leave the house, because Marv went and destroyed the Thompsons' mother's house. And so after he destroyed the Thompsons' mother's house, he went into Independent Gas. And this is a gas plant, and it had giant things of propane, and Marv started to shoot at the propane tanks. And this really scared police and everyone that was around the area, because right around this gas plant were a lot of homes. So if he managed to blow up a propane tank, it would take out almost all the homes around there too. So then the cops' next move is to bring out the country scraper, or the county scraper, and it's this giant machine looking thing, but it was no match for the Killdozer, and it pretty much did nothing to stop it or to even slow it down. And so things started to hit the fan for Marv when he ran out of antifreeze. The engine started to overheat and he started to lose power. He ended up getting out of the gas plant and he went to the gamble store and destroyed some of it, but then he got stuck. And the reason he got stuck is because he had no idea that this building had a basement, and so because of this he got stuck and he could not get out. And it was at this point that the police and even Marv realized the fight was over. There was nothing else that Marv could do, and the police were just anticipating a gunfight at this point. They were thinking that he was going to start shooting, and they were going to have to start shooting, but a couple moments later they heard a gunshot from inside the Killdozer. They knew it was Marv, and they knew that he most definitely took his life, because there was no other way of getting out of that situation. At least that's what he felt like. And it took police and SWAT and everyone else that was there so long to get into the Killdozer. They could not figure out how to open it. They could not figure out a way to get in. They thought that maybe they could blow it up, so they put like a bunch of other explosives to see if anything would happen, and it didn't even put a dent in it. And so they tried blowing it up again after the first time they blew it up didn't work, and still nothing happened. But then police said if he wasn't dead then, he's definitely dead now. And the second time they blew it up, they were able to find a dent or something and able to push a vent up and get in. This attack lasted 2 hours and 7 minutes, and it damaged 13 buildings. And I'm gonna read you guys just some of the stuff that it damaged. It knocked out natural gas service to the town hall and the concrete plant. It damaged a truck, and it destroyed part of the utility service center. And despite all this damage that he did, the only person that was killed was Marv. And the estimated damage of all this is $7 million. And so like I told you guys in the beginning, the people that had his back, or the people that knew him and liked him, still defended him after everything. And one of the things that they would say is that Marv clearly made a point to not hurt anyone during the whole rampage. His intention wasn't to hurt anyone, but just to get revenge on the people that had done him wrong. And a lot of people understood why he did what he did. They honestly felt like the city council was too hard on him. They felt like the city council was unfair. And honestly, some of them probably felt like the city council had it coming. But the reason this whole case fascinated me so much is that this happened in 2004. It was not very long ago at all, and it happened in Colorado. I live in Colorado, and I had never heard of it. If it wasn't for the documentary Tread, definitely 10 out of 10 recommend watching it. Look it up, watch it. I definitely did not explain it at all as great as they're able to explain it. And I also wanted to mention that I got some of my information off of Wikipedia, but I couldn't believe that I had never heard of this story. This is insane. This guy made a Killdozer and took out so much of this town, and it just blew over. No one talks about it. I never hear about it. And that's just crazy to me. But the reason why no one talks about it, and you don't hear about it very often, is because apparently one day after all of this had happened, Ronald Reagan died, and it curbed all the media attention to that and took all of it away from what had happened in Granby, Colorado. Now, if this story blew your mind as much as it blew my mind, I want you to give this video a like, and I want you to comment which part blew your mind the most, because my mind kept getting blown throughout this whole documentary. And if you're in quarantine and you're not subscribed, subscribe, because I will try to be making a lot more content while we're all in this quarantine, and I will be your entertainment during this time. I promise you will not regret it. But if you are subscribed and you've made it this far into my video, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, because this video is wild. It is crazy. And until next time.